The Tigers vanquished the Carlton Blues in a Thursday night thriller where the stakes were high. They got over the line and I was very happy with the overall performance, but I might need to get my blood pressure checked after watching that game. We had some very solid individual performances, and on the team front, we ended up just being too good for the Blues. And now we sit in a position 6th on the ladder after the Saints and the Swans have both been upset by unlikely eventual victors. Anyway, guys, let's review last night's win. I loved that we had that real chaos brand of football back. You know, like, we just got it forward regardless of how we did it. Soccering it along the ground. Liam Baker just personifies this. He is a star. He's one of my top 5 favourite players, Richmond players. He's just so... he may not have Dusty level talent, but he makes up for that in just his efforts, his smothers, you know. He is a Richmond player to a T. That's just that brand of football that we bring. I thought the pressure was great too. You know, the wet conditions really played into our hands, and I think that our style kind of suits that wet brand of football. But another area of the game which was just, it was great to see, and it's been lacking in the last, first half of the season, is our tackling. You know, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but we just dominated Carlton with tackling, and that pressure just built. And you could see that Carlton just were flustered when they got the footy. It would slip out with the rain helping, and then we'd just get a turnover, which is part, as I said last week, a key facet of our game. And we just rebounded very hard and punished them there. Another thing positive from the game that I was very happy to see is, our ball movement is just elite sometimes. That passage of play in the final term where, when Newms kicked that point, which I was, a fingertip won us the game, I reckon. I love Nathan Broad as well. He's another one of these players who just has... Every week he shows up with constant effort, and that won us. I don't think we were going to win if Nunes kicks that goal. I think they would have had so much momentum and just steamrolled us like round 1. Point. We went coast to coast and then kicked a goal, and it just was... It was the best thing. That passage of play was so fluid, so electric. It was just amazing to watch. And that, if we can do that more consistently, we are a team to be reckoned with. And I feel like people have got to put some more respect on Richmond's name. After a performance against the Blues, who have been very good this year, we dominated so inside 50s, as I said, not a key aspect of our game. We're never too dominant. Well, we dominated the inside 50 count, 76-51. To be fair, when the rain died off a bit, Carlton got that part of their game back up and running, but, Carlton's biggest strength is their clearance, really. I was extremely happy with just Dion Prestia winning the clearances, running through the middle, and he was playing that sweeper role and just getting all the ground ball gets, and he is so important to our team. That's another thing people forget about last time we played Carlton. He went out in the first quarter after having 10 touches. I mean, he is so instrumental. And honestly, I think Cam Lambert also helped us a lot. He came in and he mightn't have had, he didn't have the most influential game, but he's just a player that knows the system. He knows how we want to move the football, and he's just so clean. And I think that he could play on. I'd let him play on if he wants to next year. How good was Shea Bolton selling the candy? People, like, in the press conference after the game, Dimmer was disappointed. He was saying he was disappointed with that. And I know that that's what you're supposed to say. Like, you can't say, oh, how good was that? You know, like, screw you, Carlton. But, that was, in the face of adversity, Carlton coming back. And after all of the Blues fans gave us such a hard time after round one, you know what? That was just, it felt healing. It felt healing to, notch a win over the Blues after that round one, loss, which was honestly one of the worst wins. Like, that was one of the worst games I've seen from us. Not in the way of playing, just the emotion that came with it. I mean, I basically don't remember a time where we lost to Carlton. The last time I remember actually losing to the Blues was in 2012 in that final. And so 10 years ago? That's the last time I remember losing to Carlton. And it just felt like Richmond was the Tigers of old last night. I do love, though, that these clubs have returned to the juggernauts that they were. Like, the huge rivals. And I've never known that in my life. I've never known us to be massive rivals with Carlton. And that fight at half time, I love to see that stuff. I just love the emotion. That's why all of this dissent stuff is just so sapping from the game. But that's for another day. Yeah, look, I love the fight that was in this game, the slog. I mean, it was just great to watch, really. Okay, on to some negatives. We let Carlton almost come back and win, like in round one, and we haven't been playing out the ends of games well, or we've looked pretty bang average in the final quarter. I respect how we dug in and, absorbed the pressure when it came and held on, but that's not going to cut it from here on out. And it is telling, last week I think it was a similar style of game. It was a bit wet and we dominated a bit earlier on and let Port come back and almost lost it, but we held on. I think it's similar. I think that, it just shows from games earlier in the season against Adelaide, St Kilda, even Carlton, where we had those leads and we lost. They just did a complete turnaround and we just couldn't stem the bleeding, stop that momentum. Whereas you're seeing a Richmond team who's fighting. When the momentum has swung the other way, they're fighting. That Liam Baker's smothering the footy and just all of these gutsy efforts, gut running, and it was just enough to hold on for the Tigers. One thing that also, I mean, this isn't a negative for Richmond, but just irritates me, is the Carlton supporters who are saying Jack Noon's goal was not touched. Because I'm sorry, but you look at that footage and Nathan Broad's hand, you can clearly see it move when the footy touches it. And everyone is pulling a stink over how, it wasn't touched and all this kind of thing. But I understand if that's a valid thing, but there was no doubt in my mind. I mean, maybe if I was a Carlton supporter, I'd think differently, but it just, come on. I feel like you're clutching at straws. The accuracy wasn't great at times. I think we kicked 15 points in total, which in the wet conditions is understandable. And a lot of them were rushed and were boundary shots like Judson Clark, Morris Rioli, few come to mind. And Shea Bolton missed a howler in front of goals early, which he really needs to work on that game. I mean, he's been pretty good at finishing the last few years, but, he's found finishing a bit tough this year with his work. I thought the forward 50 connection was also not great sometimes. Like, we just get all these repeat entries into inside 50 and it would just be picked off by a Carlton defender. Tom Lynch, though he kicked 3 goals and I thought he had a really good game, he didn't get a lot of great runs at the footy. And that mid to forward connection should be there more than it was. But he still kicked 3, and I thought that he had a really solid welcome home game. He capitalised on his opportunities. I thought he for sure would have missed an absolute sitter in front of goal, but he managed to kick that one. Now, a player that I also was really impressed with, who didn't get any of the coaches' votes, any of the glory, was Marlon Pickett. He kicked our first goal, and he's a midfielder. He doesn't get 30 plus. He gets 18 to 25 if on a really good day. He's usually around that 20 mark for disposals. But gee, he's just so tough. And I used to give him a bad rap. I thought he was pretty crap, but he's just a tough nut, and he really knows the system. I just thought he had a very solid game last night, especially since he's been, he's had sickness and match fitness issues. I thought he was one of our best, and he will be an unsung hero for that game. Yeah, look, so I'm extremely happy with where we are at the moment. We've won 6 of our last 7. We're sitting 6th on the ladder with a good percentage. And, we're fairly injury-free except for Noah Bolter coming down with a hamstring, and I think Robbie Tarrant with a knuckle. Robbie Tarrant had a pretty poor game, but he, as I said, he did his job. I don't know who was accountable for those Mackay goals late, but apart from that, he did play pretty well. I mean, I think Grimes played on Curnow actually, so I'm not sure who Tarrant gravitated to. I didn't really see, but Grimes held Curnow. Was it goalless or 1 goal? Which I was very pleased with, especially since he was leading the Coleman before that round. So we've won 6 of our last 7. If you look at it this way, to this point of the season in 2019, we were sitting on 28 points, which is a win worse than what we have right now. We're a win ahead of our 2019 record, where we finished 3rd and won the flag. It's not impossible. I feel like if we get a run, if we beat Geelong, we're as just as good a chance as any. If we beat Geelong, I'm expecting Geelong to win against West Coast, no doubt in my mind. So they'll be a win ahead of us coming into next week. If we win that, we're even on points, and you know what? We're not that far away from the other teams. And Carlton, they have a hard game next week. I can't remember who, but I know it's a tough opponent. If they lose that one, Sydney's lost. We're in it level pegging. I really don't see why there's any reason we couldn't make the top 4 anymore. We need to have timed our run well. We just have to wait and see if we can keep timing the run. There'll be hiccups, I'm sure, but we've won 6 of our last 7. And that is huge. With that also, we've beaten quality teams now. We've beaten Collingwood, who just knocked off the Premiers. We're playing electric football. We beat Hawthorn, who challenged top 8 sides like Brisbane, Freo, Melbourne even. We got over the line against a resurgent Port Adelaide side, and we've beaten Carlton, who have been a dominant team this year. I said in my last video that this week was do or die, and Richmond lived to fight another day. I'm taking it on a weekly basis, but if we beat Geelong, we are primed for a finals campaign where who knows what could happen. And Dusty will be back next week, and Richmond have all the momentum. And come finals, who knows what could happen. Get excited, fans. The lid is off. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. And, please stick around and, chuck a sub or a like. It really helps me out. And, if you have any other friends who go for Richmond, just let them know about the channel. It would mean the world to me. I love, talking to you guys in the comments, and I'm excited to keep this content going. So until next time, guys, I'll see you later, and go Tigers.